I feel fortunate in that, early on, my dad and my two older brothers really gave me a wonderful alley-oop in that they were all into basketball, diehards, and I caught the bug. And growing up in New York, where you got 700 outdoor playgrounds, everybody plays ball. Dean Member just said it best. If you don't play ball, you can't hang. And for me, I was a nerdy kid. I was reading comic books and I had great grades and, I didn't know how to like dress fly and I didn't have no funds. So the way I got cool was because I played ball. And once I got into ball, that got me into sneakers and the cats that I used to run with, all into hip hop. And so, we used to trade the tapes. That just led me to this beautiful life. Whether I was gonna make money off of it or not, I knew I was gonna be listening to hip hop. I knew I was gonna care about music. I knew I was gonna be playing ball. So crazy story last night, I was digging for 7 inches online and this label just released the Artifacts, like reissue of an older joint. I come here to the 24/7 HH studio and brother got the Artifacts t-shirt. And it's like, yo, like Artifacts is on my brain cells right now. Bust out back in, I think 91, maybe 92, me and Stretch were on WKCR 89.9 FM. And we had gotten banned from having artists in the studio because someone had come up to our station and defaced the property. So the management was like, yo, y'all can't have no MCs up there, whatever, whatever. So bingo, I had the light bulb, ching. And I said, yo, why don't we have MCs call up and rhyme? And we'll have like a contest. And so all these cats called up. One was Tame, one was Elder Vicente. I didn't know how to say Elder Sensei, so I called him Elder Vicente. And they both, they won the contest. And so by virtue of that, I was like, yo, y'all can come up to the station next week as soon as we can have guests again and live on, rhyme live. And, in that era, that was a big deal to be on me and Stretch's show because every artist from Nas, Biggie to Mobb Deep, Big Pun had came up unsigned and then wound up, moving on to do very great things. So they came up, beautiful brothers, mad cool. We all wound up becoming friends. They wound up becoming cool with another unsigned group called Souls of Mischief, who were also cool with another unsigned artist named Curious, and that became a collective. A lot of people don't know that. That was like this like bi-coastal crew, Hyro, Artifacts, Curious, and then Stretch was working at Big Beat Atlantic at the time. He wound up signing Artifacts, and that's how they wound up getting out to the world. So crazy random story, it's just a phone call changed their lives. Radio that changed lives. That was the name of the last film. One of the first moments that I realized that hard work and creating your own good luck could pay off was in 1987. I had been cut 3 years in a row from my Wesleyan University varsity squad. But instead of letting that, hold me back and losing my passion for basketball, that just, was just like, whatever. Like, I don't need the school to validate that I'm a passionate ball player and I love this game. So I kept on playing. I kept on getting better, And then I was in the park at the GOAT, where I grew up, which is also known as Rocksteady Park. Crazy Legs, Ken Swift, Doze, they all used to be in the back breaking while I was playing 5-on-5, while I was playing horse, while I was playing 21. And a scout from the Puerto Rico Pro League saw me playing that day and, walked up to me and he was like, yo, I'm going to make a call for you to play. And I want to become my school's second professional player in the history of the program. When that happened, it was like a light bulb went in my head, like, wow, like, I can live a life of self-determination. And I'm not going to say more about that moment because it's a beautiful scene in the film, Rock Rubber 45s. And I really encourage people to watch it, to get the whole layers of it, how it relates to my father and my family. And, but yeah, that was a beautiful moment. I'm so thankful for it. I feel fortunate in that, early on, my dad and my two older brothers really gave me a wonderful alley-oop in that they were all into basketball, diehards, and I caught the bug. Once I caught the fever for that, and growing up in New York where you got 700 outdoor playgrounds, everybody plays ball. Dean Member just said it best. If you don't play ball, you can't hang. And for me, I was a nerdy kid. I was reading comic books and I had great grades and, I didn't know how to like dress fly and I didn't have no funds. So the way I got cool was because I played ball. And, and this is detailed in my film Rock Rubber 45. The way I was able to escape bullying and being abused and stuff like that was by playing ball. That was my out. And once I got into ball, that got me into sneakers. And the cats that I used to run with, all into hip hop. And so, we used to trade the tapes of Grandmaster Flash, Flash is on the beat, boss going, and all the underground tapes, at the time. And that just led me to this beautiful life. Whether I was gonna make money off of it or not, I knew I was gonna be listening to hip hop. I knew I was gonna care about music. I knew I was gonna be playing ball. The fact that I was able to make money off of those things just empowered me really to be like, when I left Def Jam in '93, I embarked on a mission like, okay, I have all these interests and now I don't have a job. One of my earliest freelance jobs in '93 after I left Def Jam was I was given private instruction. Now that's a big deal, one-on-one instruction for basketball. Back then, I didn't know anybody doing one-on-ones. You went to basketball clinics, you went to basketball camps. But, I've always been a dude that, another jewel for the, is that I share in the film, figure out what's missing, fill the void. As a freelance, I've always done that. So, that's how I've been able to go for 25 years, just constantly reinventing myself, just by filling voids. In my film, Rock Rubber 45s, it's not just a greatest hits of my career. Like, there's a moment where I'm performing at a Nike event called Boing Bang Boogie, right? And they collected all these ball handlers and dunkers, and we were in front of a crowd like 2,000. Fat Joe is there, Angie Martinez is there, Kenya Martin is there, as judges. And I go out and, I'm trying to do my tricks and everything, and I fell backwards on my butt. People were laughing at me, 2,000. And Cipriani's and on 42nd Street. That was a knock, yo. That was a big knock. That was embarrassing. Because, people knew me as a ball player and people knew me as a trickster on the court. But people, as a performer, it's a different space. And, I could very well have been like, man, I don't want to get back out there. A-Train from the Harlem Globetrotters was laughing at me. For years, he would be like, yo, remember that time you fell on your ass? And I was like, yeah, I remember. But, I stuck with it. Eventually, I became a founding member of the Project Playground basketball group. And we wound up doing halftime shows for the Mavs, for the Knicks, Charlotte Hornets, University of Tennessee, women's, who was the champs, UConn, women's, who were the champs. I performed in front of 25,000 people with a basketball in my hand doing tricks. Now, had I let that moment at the Boing Bang Boogie set me back, period, I would have never gotten to, I got paid to have a basketball in my hand for like a good 6-7 years doing tricks in the world's most famous arenas, in front of NBA players looking at me coming out the halftime tunnel, like, yo, that was dope, So that's one piece. There's a lot of more, but I don't want to spoil the film. There's a lot more deeper ones and more hurtful ones, but I'll leave it with that one. That was light. The 3 keys, the 3 jewels that I speak about at all my engagements, my appearances at the Latino Youth Conference or the New Life Community Center, whatever it is, and they're all in the film, Rock Rubber 45s. I made sure that me and the editor, we infused the film with the jewels that I impart to the youth. One of them is no fear of failure. Number 2 is hard work. Number 3 is kindness reaps infinite dividends. I can't tell you how many opportunities I've had in my life. I'm not the best DJ. I'm not the best ball player. I'm not the most gifted sneaker customizer. But I've had incredible opportunities come my way because I've constantly been a fair, courteous, kind person. When Ray Diaz, the scout from Puerto Rico, gave me the call to shoot out there to Arecibo to play for them, they saw me without even seeing tape. I mean, they signed me without even seeing tape. They just went on Ray's word that A, I was a good ball player, and B, there was a lot of drug problems in the Puerto Rico Pro League in the 80s, I didn't drink, I didn't smoke. Ray knew, oh, he's good. He's not going to give you any problems. He also knew that I was going to, Ray would see me at 6 a.m. in the park. Ray would see me at 8:30 in the park, So he knew I was going to play hard and practice and all that stuff. I've got mad opportunity. I remember another instance was I used to play at Basketball City in the 2000s, right? And there was a cat named Dan Gladstone, cool brother, he had the Gill Zeros, the white orange. And I was like, because not a lot of people had the Gill Zeros in New York. I was always complimenting Dan, I like your sneakers. I had a nice little jump shot. I feed him, when we were on the same squad. I didn't know homeboy was a VP at the Knicks. Had no fucking idea. I was just cool with him, saying what's up, B? And at the time, I had Bounce Magazine. I was the editor-in-chief and co-founder. And so in 2006, Dan reaches out to me. He's like, it finally reveals what he does. And he's like, we're about to start a show called Summer Ball. I want you to come in and meet the VP of programming. They signed me to become the host of the network's first original program related to outdoor basketball in New York City. I didn't have to audition. I didn't have to compete with anybody. Boom, the position is yours. You're going to host and be the creative producer. Now, if I was a dick to Dan, you think that would have happened? Nah, I was kind to Dan, and he saw that I worked hard and I had passion for the culture. And boom, I got the opportunity. I became the first Latino broadcaster in the next 60-year franchise history. You know what that meant to people? When I would go to El Barrio and I would go to Brooklyn, and old ladies, viejas, would come out the bodega, hugging me yo, I love your show. They'd be like, yo, I don't even like basketball, but I like your show. And I did Summer Ball for 3 years. It was actually the #1 rated original program on Madison Square Garden Network. That didn't make the film either. You make a film, 90 minutes, you try to fit 50 years of your life in it, you can't do it. So the Madison Square Garden Network announcer did not make the film, but maybe I'll be in deleted scenes on the DVD. Look out for it. I'm not really quite sure how I balance everything. People ask me that all the time. How do you, when do you sleep? And you see my film and you realize that I'm a DJ, I'm a ball player, I'm an author, a writer, a journalist, a historian, a documentarian. I'm a TV and radio personality. I got a podcast with Stretch Armstrong called What's Good with Stretch and Bobbito on National Public Radio, online. I've acted in films. I've designed shoes. I'm a photographer. I've licensed my images to Wieden & Kennedy, to Nike, to Pata, to Raised, various apparel lines around the world. I'm a consultant. I don't really know, my dude. I got a lot of zest for life. I know that. And I'm appreciative that since 1993, for 25 years now, I've been running around without no guaranteed income. You understand? And I'm a New Yorker. So the pace of New York is right to begin with. I'm a cat that's infused by all the passions that I have. And then when you mix in that I have no guaranteed income next month. I have no guaranteed income in 2019. Even before I had a child and a wife, prior to that, I was always like, I have no idea how I'm gonna live. So that requires a tenacity towards freelance work. When you add in the fact that I can make money having a basketball in my hand and I can make money playing records, it's like, then it's a no-brainer. You send me an email with a booking request, it's gonna be responded to. You send me an email for an interview request, it's gonna be responded to. Now, I can't do everything, that I'm asked to do, but trust, I enjoy this, I enjoy being here on camera with 24/7 HH. Come on, Chicago, you crazy? I feel blessed because I walked into becoming a filmmaker in 2010, 2011. My first film was released in 2013. But I had so many varied experiences leading up to it. Like I was an editor-in-chief of a magazine, right? So I didn't go to film school, but I knew how to take multiple voices and bob and weave them into a single narrative. So when I was in the editing room and we have 60 interviews, I know how to take the money quote from this one, the transitional quote from this one, the binding quote from this one, and put them together. And then I also knew from being an editor and a writer how to take photos and cover, illustrate what the words are saying. With film, you cover what the words are saying, right? And so, you know, I already had a sensibility for that. And plus I had been on camera. On the flip side, I knew how to market myself. I knew how to promote. I worked for Def Jam for 4 years. I was consulting Nike and Wieden and Kennedy for 10, 15 years on how to reach their market, how to reach their audience. You know what I mean? Like, my first film comes out, like, I don't need to hire a marketing agency and an ad agency and a publicist. I could do all that shit by myself. I wrote for Slam. You know what I'm saying? Yo, I hit up Dennis Page, been out, I got a new film out. Can y'all put the trailer on the website? Can you interview me, please? Rob Stone from Fader Magazine, Cornerstone. Yo, Rob, can you do an article in Fader, like, about, you know? So I knew a lot of people, you know, and back to the kindness thing, like, everybody has respect for me because they know that I've been doing this for the culture for so long. So I had an advantage on other filmmakers, really, you know, and it's funny because even after my first film, after that, I had filmmakers who had went to school for it, hitting me up like, yo, how did you do this? How did you fundraise? How did you crowdfund? How did you have a successful Kickstarter? How did you book 100 screenings across the world? Well, I did that because I was a club DJ and I've done right by everybody, you know, every event organizer. So when I had the film come out, yo, you want to do something different? I know you do numbers at your club. You want to try to book a theater and get numbers in the box office? Let's rock. In fact, pull me in and hire me to DJ the after party. So, like, you know, again, what a marketing department would do, like, I'm doing for myself. I've done that for each of my films. When you watch the end credits of Rock Rubber 45s, it wasn't to be self-aggrandizing. It was to show people, like, yo, I was the location scout. I was the PA. I was the interviewer. I edited the film in some scenes. I was assistant editor. I'm the marketing director. I designed a website. I do all the social media myself. I book the theaters myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, like, it's not just enough to make a film. You know, and I used to tell that to hip-hop artists too. On the low, I used to quietly manage Organized Confusion for a little bit. I used to quietly manage Power Rule. And then when I left Def Jam in 93, I could full on have a management company. I had Artifacts, Curious, Hard to Obtain, and KMD. And I would tell all these artists, like, yo, it's not enough to just go into the studio and record. You got to be your own agents. Like, now people talk about branding. We didn't have social media out there, you know, back then. But I would tell them, yo, you got to go to the interviews ready. Yo, rock that. You know, have the interviewer, like, loving you as a person and adoring your art. Show up to the concert on time and hang out with the people afterwards and take the photos and sign up. You know, be your own agent. You know, and so I've been on that for a long time, you know. Yo, what's up? This is Bobbito Garcia, aka Kool Bob Love. Worldwide, 24/7 HH, rock on. So crazy, you know, people always ask me, like, yo, what's your favorite sneaker? La, la, la. My favorite sneaker is revealed in my film, Rock Rubber 45s. And I don't want to spoil it. I just hope that people download it, stream it, or for Vimeo, or for iTunes, or whatever VOD platform, starting on July 24th. But in the last couple of months, a shoe that's very dear to me is the Puma Suede, because I had the opportunity to design a collaboration with the brand for the 50th anniversary of the model. Now, to tie it into the last film, peep this. I gave them a cassette of a Stretch and Bobbito radio show from back in the 90s and they popped it on the box, and then they popped my name on it, which was crazy. And I got to shout out my man Vaz, Nice and Nasty Vaz. He used to be a host and slash DJ of across 110th Street on WKCR, which was the same station that me and Stretch were on. But he used to, tape the show. He was a interviewee in Stretch and Bobbito, ready to change lives. And here's the Puma Suedes. I tried to bring it back to the 70s. Some b-ball classic. My name is on the inside. Boom, boom. Where'd you get those? Is on the inside. My name is on the side. So these blew out. They already sold out. Puma.com, they sold out a bunch of stores. I'm very happy about that. And I'm very grateful to the opportunity to have my spin on such an iconic shoe. Boom. I'm fortunate in that I started painting sneakers in the 70s. I took the cue from my older brother, Ray Garcia, who gets if you read my book, Where'd You Get Those? New York City Sneaker Culture, 1960, 1987, you know that he's the one in my family that passed me the torch. He passed me the baton, and I took it like 80,000 times, harder than what he did. But I took all my cues in terms of customizing from him. And then I started painting shoes, and I started getting a rep in the 80s because I started hanging out downtown, with Third Base, and I was meeting De La Soul, and they was like asking Serge, like, yo, who's your man with the gold Puma Sky Alexis? And then eventually I wrote an article for the Source magazine called Confessions of a Sneaker Addict. It wound up becoming the first article in media history documenting sneaker culture. So push forward many years, my rep in that space has been one of an ambassador, one of a progenitor, one of a historian. With my book, Where'd You Get Those? Eventually, that coupled with the fact that I'm a ball player officially. I played ball in 43 countries, 6 continents. I played pro ball in Puerto Rico. I've played in a lot of tournaments in New York. I've crossed up a couple of people. I played in the N1 mixtape tour. I was in a Nike freestyle commercial. All this history is in my film, Rock Rubber 45s. But one thing that did not make the film is my stamp on sneaker collabs. If you were a filmmaker, there's no way you're going to fit 50 years of someone's life in 96 minutes. So, a lot of cats during the Q&As at the premieres, they've been like, yo, how come you didn't include the Nike Air Force One, times Kool Bob Loves? But I'll break it down for you. My first collab was actually in 2004 with a German brand called K1X. They had the Chief Glider model, and at the time, I was the editor-in-chief of a magazine called Bounce from the Playground. It was the only publication in the history of the sport as well as publishing dedicated year-round to outdoor basketball. I was one of the co-founders, editor-in-chief. And so when they hit me up to do the collab, I was like, you know what? Instead of putting my name on it, I'm going to put the magazine logo on it. And people going to know it's me because people relate the magazine to me. And then in 2005, Adidas hit me up. They were like, yo, we're doing the 35th anniversary of the Shell Toe. Oh, word. Like, I went from like a tiny brand, not even sold in the United States to being with Adidas, another German brand, oddly enough, But the Shell Toe is like, that's the most iconic shoe, that and the Rod Laver and the Stan Smiths for Adidas. So to get a chance to spin, my ideas on that silhouette was crazy. At the time, I was part of a basketball performance group called Project Playground. We were doing halftime shows for the Knicks, for the Mavs, for University of Tennessee, UConn. And that history is in my film, Rock Rubber 45s as well. So, but I didn't put my name on it. I did it with the Project Playground. And then in 2007, the Ooh La La came along. The Air Force One was celebrating their 25th anniversary. And, it was interesting because Nike had all these people doing collabs. De La Soul had the Dunk, Stash had the Air Max. And all these cats is coming up to me like, yo, what do you think about? And I was like, yo, why? Like, why have I not done a collab with Nike? It was like, how could that be? You know, like I'm the one that kind of opened up the door for this whole thing. And, you know, you got people coming to me for the cosign, you know? So it worked out. I did 7 releases, 7 different colors in 1 year. That's the most, to my knowledge, of any collaborator in the history of this whole shit. Maybe, I don't know. That's, I'm just saying, as far as I know. And the Air Force One is like, that's the ooh la la. So, you know, I'd be like the sneaker of sneakers from my childhood. So to have an opportunity to, you know, to dress it and put, you know, and I did the Puerto Ricos, I did the beef and broccolis, I did the mac and cheese, you know. And it's funny because like in recent years I've seen Nike release the mac and cheese. I mean, they didn't do it with my name, you know, and I've seen them release the red uppers with the gum bottoms. That was my idea. They didn't put them with my name, but it's all good. You know what I mean? Like I was just happy to have that opportunity, and you know, boom, they flew out. They flew out. I didn't know this until recently, but you know, I be seeing people tagging my name on Instagram and whatnot. Yo, them sneakers are selling for like $500-$600. Yo, it's crazy. They were like $125 when they came out. Then in 2009, I did the Pro-Keds Royal Flash for the 30th anniversary. That was a big shoe in my childhood as well. And then 2016, I did the Ooh La La of Pumas, the Clyde. And I flipped them out, you know, because I feel like, and I did in 2018, I did the Puma Suede. But I feel like for Puma and for Adidas, you know, it's been lost that these models were initially basketball performance shoes. You know, they become so identified with the hip hop movement, you know, and the b-boy and b-girl culture. So when I had the opportunity to put my colors and fabrics on them and everything, I really want to bring it back, like instead of zooming out, like zooming in on it and just bringing it to the 70s aesthetic of when I got introduced to the Pumas as basketball sneakers, because I'm a ball player, so, and I'm a hip hop head too, but I'm a ball player first. So I think that's, you know, all both Adidas and Puma and Nike for that matter too, because the same thing happened with the Air Force One. People forgot that those are basketball sneakers, you know. So my job in each of those cases has been to just provide relevance, you know. That I mean, that's been my role in the sneaker space the whole way through is I've always just been like documenting and giving people information. Where sneaker culture is now is like unfathomable compared to what we experienced in the 60s and 70s and 80s coming up. You know, I think there's a lot of things that, you know, some of the older cats at the conventions and stuff that I go to and the cultural gatherings, they're always like, you know, they're all like little curmudgeons, like, oh man, it ain't like it used to be, or whatever, you know. But I'm like, yo, you know what? There's still a lot of people out there that are fresh with their sneaker choice. And there's more selection for the consumer now than ever before. In my era, you had to travel to New Orleans to get the drop that was there. You couldn't order it online, you know. You had to customize your shoe to get a green stripe. But now you could go on Nike ID and be like, oh, I want the green stripe on the, you know, on the dunks or whatever. So there's a lot of opportunity now for each individual to really be unique, you know, and that's supported by the brands and the sneaker stores. And also now there's a whole nother group that can benefit off of the industry. Prior, it was only 3: the brands, the distributors, and the shops. But now you got a 4th, the reseller. And the resale market is bananas. You got 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds selling their sneakers for $100, $150, you know, learning business at a very early age. I don't think that's a bad thing, because you could take away all that and you still got the head who is like, yo, you know what? Everybody's wearing that. I'm going to go complete far left and wear this. Or everybody's talking about Nike. Well, I'm going to wear Sauconys, or I'm going to wear whatever. Like, you know, it's just there's a lot of ability to be like left field and be unique and and have the love for the shoes that you have on, and have the love for, you know, appreciation for what other people wear. So I think that's a good thing. You know, I don't suggest that people get clouded by all the money that's involved in it now. You can still have an innocent view of the shoes that you have on. You know, I got a lovely relationship with Chicago. You know, my man Ronno has been looking out for me for eons, and I looked out for him when I worked at Def Jam. So anyway, so me and Ronno from 24/7 HH go back to like 90, 91 when he was on EFT, WEFT, WNUR, Jello, Ronno, whatever name he had, you know, his crew, they were killing it for the Chicago area. So, you know, now that I'm a filmmaker and I've been coming back to Chicago, you know, the 24/7 HH has been super supportive. My first film, Doing the Park, Pickup Basketball NYC, premiered here, and, you know, Ronno and his crew, like, basically were the manufacturers of the crowd. You know, Nike sponsored the event, but it was the 24/7 HH made sure that you know, it was curated seat by seat with the right hip hop heads, with the right basketball heads and all that. So I was super appreciative. So of course, when my second film dropped, Stretch and Bobbito, Radio That Changed Lives, I reached out to Ronno again to be like, yo, like, can we rock? And he got Red Bull involved, and we got Leaders shop. We did a nice little t-shirt collab. Me and Stretch were doing a Q&A, and then, you know, surprise, surprise, I look up and it's my dude, Breakbeat Lou, you know, in a little like loft area DJing the after party. It was just a lovely event. So of course, you know, my third film comes along, Rock Rubber 45s, and I was just like, yo, like, what can we do? Like, we could do 50 people in your office, or we could do like, you know, like grand, you know, grand audience, whatever. So, you know, my third film is in development, Rock Rubber 45s, autobiographical documentary of my life, my career, my setbacks. And so, you know, I hit up Ronno. I was like, yo, let's collab one more time. So he put me in direct connect with Corey from Leaders, and boom, that's how this happened. You know, bang bang, bang bang, hey! And very grateful. And tonight is the Chicago premiere at the Harper Theater, part of the Silver Room Block Party Film Fest, and I'm honored to be in one of my favorite cities in the world, and Chicago rocks, yo, word up. One of the jewels that I put in Rock Rubber 45s, and it's not just in the film, but it's also something that I've shared in speaking engagements at Rikers Island, community centers, high schools. I've spoken at Brown, Wesleyan University, Columbia University. I mean, I've been doing speaking engagements for like 25, almost 30 years now. And I have no fear of failure. Now, that didn't happen when I was a kid. It took a long time to get my esteem and my confidence, probably like mid-20s, early 30s. But not having a fear of failure has allowed me to propel myself as a freelance creative, because I walk in territories that are uncharted. And you watch my film, you're gonna see me being the progenitor of sneaker documentation and sneaker journalism. I didn't have any precedent, you know? So I could very well have gone out and done certain things. I mean, I did fall on my face. I lost $60,000 having the first sneaker boutique in New York, you know? And then in 2000, A-Life opened up and North opened up and eventually Respace, and they took the sneaker boutique to another level. That could have been me. I opened up my store in 96, but I was just too early. I was ahead of the curve. But if I had fear of losing money or fear of the business closing down, I wouldn't even had that chance. So that was one knock. But I've had other things that have done very well, like my films, you know? So I'm happy for that. The name of my store was Bobbito's Footwork. It opened up in 1996 on 9th Street in the space that Fat Beats had vacated. Fat Beats was a famous hip-hop record shop. So what I did is I started selling sneakers, which y'all call dead stock now. Like, I had a supply in Miami that had like all these shoes from the 80s that, you know, odd sizes and, you know, discontinued models and whatnot. And but then I also had Ken Sport, who was a famous collector, Benny B, who eventually wound up starting ABB Records, and Juju for the Beat Nuts. Those were my 3 secondhand record suppliers. And I sold secondhand records, and I sold independent 12-inch releases, and I had connects with Ujima, Elements of Style, 555 Soul, Hayes. I was like a one-stop shop for independent hip-hop entrepreneurialism. Is that the word? Yo, what's up? This is Bobbito Garcia, aka Kool Bob Love. Worldwide, 24/7 HH, rock on.